Dear students, the next topic of our first chapter, that is sources of modern Indian history. Now we'll see how the modern Indian history was stored, because each history is a record, right? So from which sources we get such kind of history, right? Information. So in this topic we'll come to know the sources of modern Indian history. The modern period of Indian history can be reconstructed using a large number of sources, including written records in English and regional languages. So, if you want to have information, that is past information regarding anything, then you need to explore the sources of that. And sources can be anything written, sources can be even vocal also, right? Sources can be another thing also, physical, any proof also that. So for the modern period of Indian history, how we can reconstruct it, how we can build an organized history book, from that we would have to use a large number of sources. In that, written sources also, that was written in English, because English men, it means Britishers, noted each and everything. And regional languages also, so some sources are available in regional languages also. This includes both administrative and non-administrative sources also. So at that time, when whatever was recorded by British officials, that were called administrative sources, and sometimes non-administrative sources were also available. So let us first see administrative sources. They are written records of the British in India, prepared by administrators, officials, and historians appointed by the colonial government. So, administrative sources are the written records of the British in India, and who wrote these records? They were administrators, they were officials, and historians, and which were appointed by the government. Colonial government, it means British government, it was colonizing India. These are official records, surveys, and mapping. Which are these sources? Administrative sources. These are some official records. It means records prepared by officials. The another were surveys and mappings. Surveys were conducted by Britishers, and mappings were also there, that we'll discuss later in this chapter. First is official records. Official records of the British administration are a very important source, as the British believed that every instruction, plan, policy, and decision had to be written and recorded for clarity and as ready reference for quoting in case of dispute. So at that time, even before these many years also, Britishers believed that each and everything, that is every instruction, every plan policy, in each and every decision that had been taken, they had to be written somewhere. And where they had to be written, they had to be written and recorded for clarity. Why they had to be written and recorded? For clarity, for clarification. If something has not been recorded or written, then in today's or current time, no one would believe. Clear? So that is why records are very necessary. Clear? For example, you live in a house or a home. Now what makes a proof that that house belongs to you or your family? So when it is asked, your father will show the documents, that is called deed of the house or property, that it has been purchased or bought from particular person. So that is a record for clarity and as ready reference for quoting in case of a dispute. If any problem arises, dispute, it means problem between two person or among many, or between two organization or among many. So that is called a dispute. So in case of dispute, if any written record is there, we can reference it. There are about 300 collections and over 3,000 smaller deposits of private papers relating mainly to the experience of the British in India. So this number of collections and some references are available in India for the British in India. The collection of such document is called an archives. Archive is we can call the storage of such records. Where the records are stored, that is called archive. Official records are stored, that is called archives. Clear? Record rooms attached to the administrative institutions were set up by the British. So at the time of British, many records rooms, maybe per building one record room or more than that according to the need. Many record rooms were prepared or attached at the time of Britishers with all the official buildings. So in the record rooms, records are stored and they are called archives. Archives and museums also preserved records. So as we saw that many buildings are having room, that is called record room, but some buildings are dedicated for preserving records, many important records. So those are called archives or museum. Letters and memos that moved from one branch of the administration to another in early 19th century can still be read at the archives. So some letters, some memos that were used to communication for among one or many branches, they are stored at archives. You can still today read those letters and memos. Memos are a piece of paper which is used to transfer the instructions. Calligraphy is carefully copied out these documents, and with the spread of pen printing, several copies were printed and handed over to each government department. Calligraphy, calligraphy is a beautiful handwriting. They were also copied because at that time printing was not that this much developed compared to this time. So calligraphies were also copied and some documents were also copied with the spread of printing. Then some later printing was spread, printing was invented. So several copies were printed and handed over to each government department. For example, one government department want to pass some instruction to other, but it was at that time only one copy was passed. But when printing was developed, at that time each government department was given one copy of that. So this was regarding archives. Next is survey. You can see this present day National Archives of India, situated at Delhi. National Archives of India, right? You can see the old books. Clear? Next is surveys and mapping. The British believed that a country had to be properly known before it could be effectively administered. So they conducted surveys and made maps for various administrative purposes. It was a very smart way that Britishers believed at that time also, that if you want to control the country properly, then you need to know that country first of all. If you want to administer, it means if you want to rule over a country, administer over a country, then that country must be known properly. And in order to know the country properly, Britishers conducted surveys and they made even maps for various administrative purposes, because on the base of maps, Britishers were used to have the idea of what to do and what not to do. The Survey of India was set up at Dehradun, which made detailed maps of towns, villages, mountains, and coasts. So, India, the whole surveys of India's was set up at Dehradun, Indian city, and over there, maps, town maps, villages maps, mountains and coastal areas maps were prepared. The map of Hyderabad region was made by Dr. H.W. Voysey in 1821. It was the first proper geological map made in India. So it was not something like that. They come to directly. They come to a perfect map of the country, because at that time, compared to this time, at that time, no any satellite privileges were there, no technological support were there, so it was very hard to prepare map at that time. Still, Dr. H.W. Voysey tried in 1821. The maps of the colonial period helped us know about the rural and urban patterns of settlements and how they have changed over a period of time. So at that time, what was the pattern of rural and urban settlements, how rural settlements were there. Rural, it means village settlements, urban, it means city settlements, and how the change occurred over there. So how can we analyze? On the basis of the records, the surveys, the maps prepared by Britishers. If they would not have prepared, we could not have any particular idea of how India was during, before, and after the Britishers. In villages, revenue surveys were conducted. As we know, revenue, it means tax, it means income for the government. So surveys for the revenue also conducted, because government wanted the perfect revenue, perfect income from all the villages. So they started having revenue surveys. From the end of 19th century, census operations were held every 10 years. It is also observed right now also. Every 10 years in our country, census operations are held. Census operation, it means counting of population, right? To prepare the detailed records of number of people in India. So at that time, this kind of surveys were done. You can see the photo of different kinds of birds. So it is somehow for some students strange. It is that why birds photos are there, but in surveys, some fauna surveys, flora surveys also included. See this, the British collected information about the flora and fauna of India, asking artists to make intricate sketches depicting them, right? You can see some duck, bat, parrot also. So that was regarding administrative sources. The next is non-administrative sources. The non-administrative sources are printed books, biographies and autobiographies, newspapers, magazines, letters, pamphlets, films, photographs, paintings, artifacts, and historical buildings. So all these we read are not administrative sources, because these are published not by government but by some private initiative. Books, biographies and autobiographies are story of self. Newspapers, magazines, letters, pamphlets, right? Let us see printed books. With the introduction of printing press, when the printing press started coming, more books were produced and were easily available for the common people. The collection of speeches delivered by Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose, or the 100 volumes of Gandhiji's collected works, are extremely important, as they place the past events in the correct perspective. So you can even find some information from these books also. So these are also a source of history, but as these are not from government, so these comes under the category of non-administrative sources. Dadabhai Nauroji's book Poverty and Un-British Rule in India. So it was written by Dadabhai Nauroji, a personnel which was not British government personnel. It attacked the British government's economic policies and is an important source for the economic history of this period. So during that, Dadabhai Nauroji, what he felt, what he saw, what he realized, he shared in this book written by himself, that is Un-British Rule in India, Poverty and Un-British Rule in India. So it is also an important source of history because you can have some information from that also. Then Sarat Chandra Chatterjee and Munshi Premchand also wrote about the peasants and the downtrodden. Downtrodden, it means those whose condition is not well. That is called downtrodden, right? So it is also an important source of history, because on that matter you can come to know that at the time of that British colonization, what was the situation and condition of peasants and the downtrodden. These books helped in the spread of the nationalist spirit among the masses. Government records, on the other hand, spoke only of the administrative measures taken during the period, suggesting what the British wished to preserve for posterity. So these non-administrative records help in the spread of nationalist spirit among the masses. Masses, it means people. So these books, as it was written by Indians, it helped spreading the nationalist feeling. More and more Indians, when coming into contact of these non-administrative records, they started developing the sense of freedom movement, nationalism in their heart. Whereas on other end, administrative records did not speak about this. Those records only spoke about the British measures taken, about the British wishes they want to preserve for the posterity. Posterity, it means next generation, right? What officials wanted to preserve for the posterities. Only those matters were there in the administrative records. Next is biographies and autobiography. As you know that biography and autobiography, it means to write the fact about one's self. A number of biographies and autobiographies were written by people during this period. Among these writers, there were many talented women who criticized the social differences between men and women. So many autobiographies suggested that it was obviously written by women. So that autobiographies suggested that there were biasness, unfairness on the women's side. Clear? Social differences were there between men and women. One of the most important writers of this period was Tarabai Shinde from Maharashtra. She wrote Stri Purush Tulna. So in that book, Stri Purush Tulna, she wrote about comparison of the situation and condition of men and women. Stri, women, Purush, men, Tulna means comparison. Next is newspapers, magazines, letters and pamphlets. A large number of newspapers, magazines and pamphlets were also printed throughout India. Many kind of things. Right now, nowadays, ample amount of newspapers and magazines and pamphlets are there. But at that time also, some numbers of magazines and pamphlets were printed in different languages. These are important sources because they include editorials, cartoons, news, and letters which throw light on various perspectives of society. Nowadays, also, these are very important sources for the information. We can come to know much information by these newspapers also, magazines also, pamphlets also, because they include some editorials which contain some important information, some cartoons which depict some concept or time, some news and letters which purpose is some perspective of society of regarding current time. Among the earliest newspaper in India, Miratul Akhbar in Persian was published by Raja Ram Mohan Rai. He was a great reformer, and Bal Gangadhar Tilak printed the Kesari in Marathi. These two were, one was a famous reformer, another was a famous nationalist. Both published different magazine by them. You can see the Kesari newspaper or magazine by Bal Gangadhar Tilak, a Marathi magazine. Next is photographs, paintings, and artifacts. It is also an important source because from historical photographs you also come to know that what was history. So we cannot ignore photographs, paintings, and artifacts. Photography, a new and valuable medium of art captures historical moments for posterity and facilitates a near perfect historical representation. So photography, it was since it started, it was a very new and valuable medium of art. Nowadays also in the newspapers, at that time in newspapers also black and white photographs were there. Nowadays in newspapers, colored photographs which depicts us the current situation of the world. Various status, rare paintings, coins, and artifacts throw light on various aspects of society, culture, and economics. Some paintings, rare paintings, some coins, some artifacts, some things, they were related to the history of our country, so they throw the light on various aspects on culture and society and economy. They show national leaders and great historical personalities, obviously, because they are linked to that. For an example, these coins were minted by this king. This kind of coin were minted by this king. Nowadays, you see the circular coin which is in the shape of round or oval. But at that time, coins with punch were also there. A hole in exactly in between the coin. A coin which with different shapes were also there. They show national leaders and great historical personalities. For example, paintings of Bharat Mata in different styles reflect the progressive attitude of the Indian nationalists. You can see that, right? This is the poster of film Achut Kanya. It was the movie was produced by the studio Bombay Talkies that came into existence in 1934. The Bombay Talkies studio came into existence 1934. It means before independence. Next is films. Documentary and feature films help in the study of this period. Many films were also there, as we saw. Watching these films leaves a lasting impression as though we are seeing these events with our own eyes. At that time, Sir Richard Attenborough's film Gandhi includes an actual news reel of Gandhi's visit to Manchester. Every film has its message. So in this film, Gandhiji's visit to Manchester and what happened during that, you can see in that movie. Another film, Achut Kanya, that is a love story of untouchable girl and a Brahmin boy, was a commercial success. So that film was a big bluster movie. Films like Pathar Panchali by Satyajit Ray present a realistic picture of Bengal's famine. Famine, it means scarcity of food and water, shortage of rain. That is why famine occurs. And rural life during the colonial period. So many such films are stored with the film division. So film division is also itself and most important source of Indian history, right? A unit under the Ministry of Information. There is also a unit under the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Government of India, right? Another poster of Bharat Mata by Abanindranath Tagore, one of the painters who established the Bengal School of Art. This school rejected the European style of painting and took inspiration from various indigenous art styles of India. Indigenous, it means related to the own country, India. Let us discuss the last topic, historical buildings. So many buildings of this period are still standing throughout the country. The buildings which have been established years ago and they are standing tall still in the history of India and today also. That is India Gate, Parliament House, Rashtrapati Bhavan, and Birla House in Delhi, where Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated, are some famous examples you can see, and you also know this. These buildings bear testimony to some of the important political developments of modern period. So these kind of buildings have the information. They are the proof, right? They are the proof of Indian history that this event occurred. They are the witness of particular event. For example, Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated in the Birla House in Delhi. They also echo, it means they reflect major trends in architecture. For example, Lutyens Delhi, an area named after its British architect Edwin Lutyens, is the best example of colonial architecture. So in Delhi you can see the reflection of that British architectures. Lutyens designed a number of famous buildings during this period. So many kind of buildings were developed by Britishers. And the last is oral history. Oral history means the stories told to us by our elders who witnessed the freedom movement firsthand. Right? Luckily, if you have grandfather or great grandfather at your home, so you can ask them that what was the scenario of British India at that time. So that also gives us a true picture of colonial period. You can see the Rashtrapati Bhavan that was also built during the British or colonial India. So with this, we conclude our first chapter. Thank you very much.